In the wilderness of DCS, you can find countless flying metallic creatures, from the majestic Supermarine Spitfire to stealthy 5th generation jets. At night, you might even catch a glimpse of the Golden Eagle. Yet, a significant part of this ecosystem belongs to helicopters. Even though they play a smaller role in terms of sheer numbers within DCS, their historical impact on the simulator's development is far more important, because it was this very helicopter that gave birth to the entire category of aircraft we now call the full-fidelity modules. It is the Kamov Ka-50 Black Shark, a helicopter that shares more similarities with our beloved Mr. 47 than one might expect. A helicopter that has tested the patience and skill of more than few pilots. And speaking of the SC-47, don't hesitate to visit Mr. 47's Discord. You might even run into our new moderators there. The mod is available for download in the video of the release of the SC-47, in the description there. Now, back to the Black Shark. It's worth briefly explaining why this helicopter was considered so unbelievably untamable, and why it earned the NATO nickname Hukum, meaning flying nonsense. Before the arrival of the Ka-50, the primary Soviet attack helicopter was the MiL Mi-24 Hind. But the Mi-24 wasn't just an attack helicopter, it was also one of the main transport helicopters. It was effectively the Soviet answer to everything. Carry soldiers into battle? Use the Hind. Missile spam the enemy? Use the Hind. Need immediate propaganda delivery? Use the Hind. Yes, the Soviet Union actually developed containers for the Hind to drop propaganda pamphlets over the unfortunate people of whichever country Moscow decided to visit. Eagle Dynamics, please add. Now, since the Hind was a jack of all trades and master of none, deploying more precise weaponry, especially dedicated anti-tank systems, was somewhat tricky, and let's be honest, the Jar, the nickname for the early Hinds, was not exactly the most maneuverable object on planet Earth. Not ideal when you're being targeted by an increasingly capable American manpad, now conveniently placed in the hands of Afghan Mujahideen. So, you had two options. A. Stop supporting your communist buddies in Afghanistan and invest your money into increasingly impoverished population. Or B. Develop a very expensive helicopter. One can only imagine how difficult the decision was. Originally designated V-80, the project aimed to create a helicopter capable of effectively destroying tanks while maintaining strong survivability against the growing threat of manpads and other battlefield dangers. Nevertheless, after considerable effort, this was the helicopter Kamov prepared to compete against the MiL Mi-28. Now, let's play a little game. Here is the Mi-28. Here's the American Apache. Here's the Cobra. Every single one of these attack helicopters, including Mi-24, requires two pilots to operate. But Kamov, in their infinite wisdom, looked at all the avionics, targeting systems, weapon management and air defense awareness, and thought, yes, one guy can handle it no problem. Spoiler alert, that one guy apparently could not handle it. Tests showed that achieving full proficiency as a single pilot in Ka-50 was extremely difficult, nearly unrealistic. The West had predicted this long before, hence the nickname Hukum in the NATO code. The Ka-50 was eventually replaced with the twin-seat Kamov Ka-52, but the NATO code stuck. Flying nonsense lived on. Some Ka-50s reportedly remained in service, at least those that the Russian Federation hasn't accidentally shot down themselves. After all, a maintenance-heavy helicopter left sitting in a hangar for 20 years, with air defenses that were either non-functional or sold off by some corrupt warehouse manager, well, you can imagine how that goes. Nevertheless, the Ka-50 found redemption in the world of DCS, where it is preserved in pristine condition. Why Eagle Dynamics chose the Ka-50 as their first full-fidelity module remains something of a mystery, but it did make history, introducing the first true full-fidelity module into DCS. Yes, the Warthog actually came after this shark. In 2008, DCS Black Shark was released. At the time, it was effectively the most advanced attack helicopter simulation ever created. In 2011, Black Shark was also integrated into DCS World and dubbed the Black Shark 2. Though already in mid-2010s the helicopter was showing its age, there was a need for a refit, and so in 2022 the helicopter was brought to a state comparable to standard of quality that the community is used to. Obviously this upgrade did not come for free. The Ka-50 is probably the most complex helicopter to fly in DCS. The single seat puts all the pressure on the single pilot. Because the Ka-50 has coaxial rotor system, it allows it to be extremely maneuverable and also power efficient. Especially the yaw authority can be impressive, considering one of the main downsides of having two rotors is the added maintenance, which would make the helicopter suffer in the real world. So in DCS, the Ka-50 definitely gets the better end of the stick. The survivability thanks to the design is also pretty impressive, allowing you to stay in fight, even when you really shouldn't. The two rotors combined with two powerful Kamov turboshaft engines allow for insane climb rates, especially compared to most helos we have in DCS. Now while the Black Shark pioneered the full fidelity, it was for quite a long time underwhelming experience due to the aging textures and polygon count from the 2008s. But with Black Shark 3 available, the only reason not to get into the Ka-50 is the possible difficulty. On the other hand, while yes the helicopter is difficult to fly alone, there are a few tricks the Kamov implemented to make it easier to operate. One of them is the autopilot, which works quite unlike anything else. Whereas in other platforms you would fly the helicopter manually and turn on the autopilot when you need, here you fly with engaged autopilot and only disengage it when you need to. So when you want to fly manually, you have to actively hold down trimmer for the autopilot to not fight your input. And once you're done, just releasing the button immediately makes the autopilot take over and fly the helicopter for you. This is single-handedly the feature that makes this helicopter even function as a single-seat helicopter. Another useful thing is that you can operate the Shkval, the big Go Soviet camera, with helmet movement tracking, so locking up targets is a really quick process, and also your main big boy gun will follow the lock. This 30mm Shipunov 2A42 cannon is a beast. Just don't forget that you carry two types of ammo, HE frag and AP, and you can switch between them on the go because this bad boy is dual fed. The same gun is also found on the Mi-28, which has far better firing angles than the Ka-50, although the Ka-50 carries around 50% more ammunition. Also the Ka-50 carries the superior Vickers missiles, which can only be carried by the modernized versions of the Mi-28. The Vickers is faster and has great range. On the other hand, the Ataka missile on the Mi-28 and the older Mi-24 is cheaper to produce, and it can be carried in a configuration of up to 8 on one pylon, while Vickers is only limited to 6 missiles per pylon. I won't get into technicalities, but the Ataka missile uses guidance susceptible to jamming and only one missile can be guided per channel. Also it struggles with moving targets. None of these issues trouble the Vickers missile, making it superior, and also it can double as an anti-air missile, which not all Atakas can. Just be aware when using the Vickers in DCS that the beam riding means you need some clearance between you and the target, otherwise the missile might collide with some unwanted objects. The Ka-50 also gets a traditional array of Soviet Union's favorite unguided missiles on the inner pylons, and since the inner pylons cannot equip guided missiles, you can also add more guns, which is just silly. You can also carry more fuel, you can carry bombs, which is silly but can work. The Ka-50 Black Shark can also carry Iglas, the anti-air missiles. Somewhat debatable whether these shouldn't be present only on the Ka-52, but it is important to mention these missiles are only available on the Ka-50 Black Shark 3, the newest update of the helicopter.
And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! Here's the cover!
Backing away from the offense, Ka-50 allows you to keep decent situational awareness with its Datalink for up to 4 helicopters and multifunctional display, providing great overview of where you are and where you need to go. Overall, the detail of the latest Black Shark 3 is on par with the standard the community has gotten used to, allowing you to explore not just the nice outsides, but also the inside of the helicopter. While not an airlifter, you can use it to transport cargo, furthermore expanding the possible scenarios in which you can enjoy the high power of the Kamov. Although you do need to make a slight modification to the game, you see the feature of sling cargo was removed from the game. It is somewhat hard to tell why the feature was removed during the lifespan of the module, but most likely it has been because the documentation about how much the Ka-50 can exactly carry and to what ability it can do so is really limited, and there's very little documentation about it, except a few cockpit buttons. Considering that Black Shark was the first full-fidelity module, it is really good to see it was not in the end left behind, and that even today it represents the very best DCS has to offer.